Okay, so your major assignment for the class, aside from your exams, is going to be the completion of a paper and a presentation on a particular genetic condition. And you will find all of the important information and the deadlines. These are not the correct deadlines. The correct deadlines are in the syllabus, and of course they will be updated by the time you see the final Canvas shell, and I'll actually probably update them as we are going through this video and I show you the assignments. So the first thing that's important for you is the disease paper instructions and rubric document. This gives you all of those important pieces of information that you always are curious about. So here we go. This gives you the font, margins, double spaced, Word doc, at least 1,000 words, not including references. A brief description with subheadings for each of the following. So you should have 6 subheadings through here. Description of the mutation. So what is happening genetically? What bases are changed? What bases are missing? What bases were inserted? Is it because there's more or less of the gene product being made? How is this genetic disease transmitted? Is it inherited from the parents? Is it spontaneous? Is it caused by exposure to a chemical? What's happening that causes this genetic change? Symptoms is pretty straightforward. What do patients who have this genetic condition experience? Epidemiology, I'm looking for how common is the condition, 1 out of every 100,000 people, something like that. Where is this genetic condition typically found? Is it more common in Northern Europe or Southeast Asia or Sub-Saharan Africa? Are there certain groups of people who are more prone? For example, there are some genetic conditions that are found more frequently in people of Jewish descent or of African descent from some of the Sub-Saharan African countries. So, in which populations is this condition more common? How is the disease screened for? What kind of genetic testing is available? This could also include things like prenatal or even embryonic testing. And what treatments are available? Are there treatments available? If not, what kind of research is ongoing into treating this genetic condition? Do not use any additional paragraphs. No introduction, no conclusion. Your minimum of 1,000 words needs to be in here. Nothing extra. You will need between 5 and 15 references. I mean, if you want to use more than 15, that's fine, but you really don't need to. There's a document about your references that we'll go through next. It is important to consider grammar, spelling, syntax, word order, word choice, but please do not run your paper through like the Grammarly AI, ChatGPT, any of those AI services, because that totally changes the meaning of what you're trying to say. And we do, with Turnitin, have an AI detector. So if your document, to me, sounds like it's too AI, or by that checker sounds like it's AI, I will be setting up a meeting with you and we're going to have a discussion about that paper. And I don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You would much rather lose a couple of points for grammar than get a 0 because you used AI. So don't do it. It's totally not worth it. I did mention Turnitin. You will submit your paper via Turnitin. There will be a link for that. Well, there is a link, so you'll see that. You don't need to write your name on the paper. Like, don't try to add extra words by putting in your name, my name of the class, name of your paper. Like, I don't need all that. I know your name because I see it on the Canvas shell. You will turn in a draft for peer review. Your peers will assess your draft using the same criteria I will. You will also assess some of your peers' papers. For this, it's really important that you get your paper in at the appropriate deadline so that you can be assigned a peer review. If not, you lose the points for the peer reviews and for being reviewed by your peers. Submissions with matching scores on Turnitin of 5% or higher, or with 2 or more lines directly matching a source, are deemed high probability of plagiarism and can receive an automatic 0. I will manually review all papers. So if it's 6%, but I can tell it's not really plagiarism, that's totally fine. If it's 4% and I can tell you plagiarized that 4% completely, that is not okay. like if it's a whole paragraph that lights up. So I will review all papers and do reserve the right to call something plagiarism, even if it's less than 5% similar. Any part of the assignment turned in late will be assessed a 5-point penalty immediately, with an additional 5-point penalty every 24 hours. However, the final paper and presentation are due on the last day of class, which is August 11th. There will be no late work accepted because the class is over. So the class ends August 11th at 11:59 p.m. August 12th at midnight is August 12th at midnight. It's not late, it's not accepted. Like the submission will close. So I'm trying to make that very clear to you now because the class ends. I can't accept work after the class is over. So even though it's an online class and you're like, oh, you know, whatever, it's an online class, like I totally get that you think that, but the last day of class is the last day of class and I'm not taking anything starting August 12th. So please make sure, don't wait until 11:58 on August 11th and then go, oh, it took like 2 minutes to upload and so now, like, sorry, get it in. Get it in. The overall paper will be worth a total of 80 points. I think it's worth like 30% of your overall grade if you look at the syllabus. You get 10 points max from your peer review of 2 papers, 10 points max from your peer reviews of from your peers' reviews of your paper, and 60 points from me. So the biggest part of the grade is from me. Here's the rubric, right? At most, grammar is worth 5 points out of 60, so it's not worth it to cheat. Don't do it. Not worth it. Okay. And it's 30% of your grade. So if you get a 0, that would really suck. So don't do it. Not worth it. Okay. So that's the instructions document. You can always ask me questions if you need some points of clarification. Totally fine answering questions about that. Reference formatting and other helpful hints. References should be in APA formatting. You do need to use in-text citation. The majority of your references, so 4 or more of your 5 minimum articles, need to be peer-reviewed journal articles. So you're not looking at the Mayo Clinic. You're not looking at Bob's Genetic website. You're looking at scientists who have published articles that are detailed and about the science. You can find these at the library or through the library. You can find them on Google Scholar. Often, because you're going to be picking human diseases, PubMed is a really safe place to look for these. You may also use at least one of your sources, but it does not count as peer-reviewed if you use something like the CDC, the NIH, the World Health Organization. And again, you must use at least 4 primary literature papers, and I'll show you how to do that through PubMed. If you're not sure, like, does my paper count? Ask me, because I'll go through all the references and make sure that they are accurate, strong references. You are going to be using APA formatting, which I believe most of you are probably familiar with. This document has more information about APA formatting, but I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can ensure that your citations are formatted correctly. One thing I do want to highlight here, we don't use footnotes, and we also do not use direct quotes. So I will give you a 0 if your paper has direct quotes. We just don't do that in scientific writing. It's very common in other disciplines, but in science, we don't. So let's show you, and again, you have this information here. This also has information on things like active and passive voice. We don't like passive voice. This has information on revising and looking over everything. So how do we do APA formatting? Maybe more simple than having to do everything all manually. Well, there's a few different options. So one of the best websites is the Purdue OWL APA. So let's go here. And it actually has something called the citation machine. Is this the best? No. Is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. But you may have to manually edit. So let's look for a paper. I told you PubMed is probably one of the best. And let's say we're going to choose the genetic condition sickle cell disease. And your papers have to be newer than 2020. The default here on PubMed is it goes by publication date. This is from 2025. I don't know what this paper is about. You will if you read it, but I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And this is the paper that I want to use. So I have the paper pulled up. Let's see here. This is a journal article, and here's the title. So PubMed will only have journal articles. So I'll copy, paste, cite. So it couldn't find it. Let me try again. Oh, no, let's see. Oh, here it is, right here. So I searched. This looks like it. Yep, that's it. So let's see how to cite it. So let's continue. Okay. It was an online database. Okay, filled in everything. You can manually check all of these things if you need to. And let's go to complete citation. And so here it has the citation. So there's a couple things that we would want to do. So let's say we're going to work. Yeah, don't do that. Let's say we're going to work in Word. Let me open up a new Word document. Of course, it opened it up on my other screen. Let's go over here. Okay. And I'm going to say, oops, sickle cell disease, blah, 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 because that's what I'm going to talk about in my paper. And whatever fact I'm saying right there, I got from this paper. So I would copy the in-text citation, paste that here, and then in my references section, I would copy the full citation, okay, and I have the full citation there. So that's one way you could do it. You could also do the same thing if you work in Google Docs. So let's say you do work in Google Docs primarily. You can definitely do that too. So let's go to Format. Or is it Tools? Tools, excuse me. Tools, Citation. You want APA format, add source. It's a journal article that was accessed through an online database. And so the thing here that's a little bit more challenging is you do have to kind of manually add everything in. So you would have to put in all of the authors' names, and there's a lot. You'd have to put in the title. So you can do all that, and it will put that in for you. That's definitely another option. But my favorite option, and it works with both Word and Google Docs, is to use a piece of software called Zotero. So I'll show you briefly how that works. So Zotero is free. You can use it for all of your classes. So let's go to Zotero. I already have it, but I'm going to download it again anyway. So I'm going to download Zotero, download for Mac because I have a Mac. It will recognize if you have a PC or a Mac. It does that. So then I'm installing it right now. So when I clicked it, drag to install. Oh, my Zotero is currently open. Let me quit so it can install the new version. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. So it's installing it. Okay, so it finished installing. You saw that was pretty quick. I already have the Firefox connector, but I'll do it again. Sometimes with Chrome, it's a little bit trickier. So if you can use Firefox or a different browser, that would be great. So it adds the connector. It's right there, Zotero. So now what do I do with this? So I've installed it, downloaded it, took a couple minutes, done. Now I want to use it. So let's open up Zotero. Okay, so it opened over here. You can see I use Zotero a lot. So yours will be, if you've never used it before, this will be empty. So what I always do is create a new collection. and I'm going to call it DNA Code of Life because that's the class I'm taking. If you want to use the course code instead, you can. It's biology. So BIOL. Okay, create collection. So there's nothing in here right now. And I want to cite this paper. So there's a few ways that you can do that. One that I think is usually pretty easy is you just click cite. I want to cite this paper. And you can download this file called the NBib. If you click on it, it asks, do you want to import it to your collection? Say yes. The other way you could do it, let's find another site. Let's say I also want to use the CDC. So I'm going to use the CDC sickle cell. And here it is, sickle cell. And I want to cite about. Let me find, okay, about. I like this page. I think this page is great. It has important information. It's from the CDC, so I trust it. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I can do is actually click here, save to Zotero. It's saving it to my library, so that looks done. I click here, and now I have also about sickle cell. So it has all of the information, the date that it was modified, the date I accessed it, everything. So now let's go ahead and I'll show you how you can use this in both Word and Google Docs. So if you open a new Google Doc and you're going to start talking about sickle cell disease, okay, go here to Zotero. Oop, probably because I had it open. Let me close it and open a new one again. There we go. So I want to talk about sickle cell disease, and I want to cite that first reference. So I go to Zotero, add edit citation. Okay. And then it popped this up on my second window. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to move it over here to show you. I want to use the APA. So say okay. And now it'll pop up something like this. So I want to cite this first paper. Here, so I'll start typing, there we go, that one, and I say okay. Okay, and so it added it for me, and then now maybe I want to add about the CDC. And I want to cite the CDC here, so then I'll do add edit citation. And it popped up that same window, but here I'm going to say CDC. Okay, so it added it there. And now let's say, well, I want my references section. I don't see it, so I go to Zotero, add edit bibliography. Okay, and now it added the bibliography. According to, all right, so now let's say I want to add one more source. Let me go back again to PubMed. Look up sickle cell disease. I spelled it wrong, that's okay. It'll find it for me anyway. Okay, let's cite this paper. It sounds interesting. Let's say I want to visit the actual journal website, or maybe you found the actual journal website. Here you could, again, use the extension. If the paper is open access and free, it will download the paper for you as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and then add more about sickle cell disease, and I want to cite that other paper I just brought in. Oh, perfect, it's right there. Okay, so it added it, and not only did it added it to my references section in alphabetical order, just like you should see with APA formatting. If, let's say, two of the papers I want to cite at the same time, this one and the CDC, this is how it cites both at the same time. So this is how you can do this in Google Docs. It works very similarly in Word. Right, so here's my Word doc. It has the Zotero plugin, and I could literally just, sickle cell disease. APA. I want to cite this other one instead. And the CDC. Okay, it cited them there. I want to add my bibliography, and it did that. So you can do the same thing in Word or Google Docs. It even lets you go between. So let's say you've been working on Google Docs and now you actually want to work on Word instead, but you don't want to lose your citations. So what you can do is make a copy, just for backup. You don't have to make the copy, but I always make the copy just for backup. Then you go to Zotero, switch word processors, say continue. Okay, and now it makes it all weird like this, and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? That's why you make a copy, so in case you get paranoid. So now we can download as a Microsoft Word. Okay, I can open it up, and again, it's like, oh my God, this looks crazy. What am I gonna do? Hit just go to Zotero, refresh. Oops. Oh, it popped up on my other side. It says, would you like the Zotero citations to be refreshed? So I hit yes. Okay, and then it did it. So it just pop up on my other window. So you can go back and forth between Google Docs and Word in order to switch word processors. So if you're on Word and you want to switch to a different word processor, you go to Document Preferences, switch to a different word processor, and you can hit continue. And then you could upload it to Google Docs. If you're working in a different class and maybe they want you to use MLA, you can hit OK. And that changes it to MLA, which to me looks very similar to APA, but whatever. So you can use Zotero to do all that. You don't have to use Zotero if you don't want to, but it's super beneficial. So I really like using Zotero, and all of the students who've used it in my other classes seem to really like it as well. So that's how you can do your reference formatting. Other things that you can find on here are instructions for how to do peer review, slides on ethical writing and plagiarism, the research presentation grading rubric. So again, right, it's relatively straightforward what I'm looking for. You will have between 8 and 10 minutes. So when the time limit says presentation is within allotted time, it is somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes. If it's off, that's when you'll lose points. So please aim for that 8 to 10 minutes. So like I said, the dates here are a little bit off. So your disease topic selection will actually be due on the 16th, not tomorrow. So there we go, on the 16th. There's no submission. You'll go to this sign-in sheet. You'll put your last name, your first name, your genetic disease that you're interested in, and I will approve or not. Next, you will have, your draft disease paper. So your draft disease paper will actually be due on the 4th of August. And then you will be assigned peer reviews. So the peer reviews will be assigned on the 5th of August. The paper is due on the 4th. Okay. So if you don't get your paper in on time, you won't get peer reviews. Your next assignment will be turning in your peer reviews of the draft paper. And those will be due on August 7th. And then, of course, the final paper and the presentation will both be due on the 11th, which is the final day of class. So they will be due August 11th, and you cannot submit after August 11th. So the assignment will close. And please don't email them to me. I will not be able to grade them. So same, your paper and your presentation. So for the presentation, please do not record audio over every individual PowerPoint slide. That is so difficult for me to watch and grade. Every student has free Zoom, so make a PowerPoint presentation and record a Zoom presentation of you talking over your PowerPoint slides. You can talk over Canva, make a Canva presentation, but please do not upload a PowerPoint that has audio on every slide, because then I have to download it and click through every one, and it's really annoying. You can upload them to YouTube. Anything that requires a password, you have to give me the password. If I can't access it, it is not submitted. So that is what you will need to do for your disease paper and presentation.